So why should you and machines tell stories together? Let me go through my story. So when I was 18, this was my life. I was living and breathing F-16 fighter jets in the Israeli Air Force. I love learning about planes. I love flying. Jets are amazing. And I love being part of something that was so much bigger than anything I experienced in life before. I actually became a flight instructor, F-16 flight instructor, super motivated to prove to everyone that I can do this just as good as the men pilots. I worked day and night to prove myself. And eventually, it paid off. I became the first woman to ever become a commander in charge of all the training of all F-16 pilots in Israel. Thank you. It was a great success, lots of press. I was super proud. But these big successes don't come without some really big failures. And I want to talk about some of them today. So here's a scenario. The super senior general comes in. He needs to go through training. So I'm the highest rank. I'll give him the training. I check his profile. He hasn't done air-to-ground training in a long time, meaning targeting a certain target on the ground from the air. I create a mission. We execute it together, and I give him feedback. So far, it's a typical day. But in the back of my mind, I tell myself, oh my goodness, this is super critical. I need to make some good impression here. But when the feedback is over, he gets up, stands like this, and says, honey, do you know who I am? I don't know if that happens to you when all your blood rushes to your brain and your ears are feeling like they're going to explode. I knew I screwed up, but why? And he continues, he says, when you were about 6 years old, I bombed the nuclear plant in Iraq. And for those who don't know, bombing the nuclear plant in Iraq all the way from Israel is still considered one of the most insane but successful missions ever accomplished by an Air Force. So missing the fact that he was there is a really big flop. Now, he clearly knows air-to-ground in his sleep. Otherwise, he would never have been chosen. Now, it doesn't mean that he'll never make mistakes, and it doesn't mean that the feedback wasn't relevant, but it does mean that I should have said it differently. If only I'd known. And when I got over the humiliation and shock, I started digging a little deeper into this, and I realized I really don't know my audience. It's actually the worst, because I think I do. I have a profile. It says the last few trainings that they've done. But this is so shallow. I don't know anything about them as pilots, as humans, nothing. And when I dug even deeper, my audience was pilots, but all sort of pilots. Some were completely new. I would literally teach them everything about F-16s and walk them to their very first flight. And some of them were more experienced than I ever was going to be. I really did not know my audience. And the more I dug into this, the more it became clear that this is critical not just for the feedback. This is critical for everything I'm doing, for how I pick what training to do, what I'm going to look at. Obviously, the feedback. I actually got a Best Commander award because I completely changed the whole training and education program for all pilots in Israel by personalizing the experience. It was critical. And just food for thought for you guys, how well do you feel you really know your clients? How well do you really personalize that experience? Just food for thought. 10 years later, I'm an engineer. I'm called by a startup to start the operation here in the US. It's not going very well in Israel and Europe, and I have a chance to make it work. Oh my God, what a challenge. I moved my family to the Bay Area. I'm super excited. And it's a different market, it's a different industry, but we know the drill. You learn the market, you learn to tell a story, you get to know your audience. It's kind of the same. We were selling to enterprise. It was super important for me to have a reference, right? Without a reference, who's going to talk to me? So I decided to aim high, Cisco HP, everybody knows them. I prepare really well for the meetings, really, really well. The meetings go amazing. I hug the teams, we made friends. I go celebrate. There's going to be a purchase order in a week or two, I'm sure. But you know what? A week or two, move, and there's no money in the bank. So surprisingly. I follow up to understand that one decided to go with the competition, the other one decided to go with a homegrown solution because it's going to cost less. How on earth did I manage to screw both of these up? I don't know when was the last time you went on a roller coaster, but this was one of the biggest roller coasters I had in a long time. My stomach was aching. I couldn't sleep at night. I'm going to need to lay off people just because I screwed up. It really doesn't get much worse. But why? What happened? So I followed up with the teams, and they explained, no, the meeting was great. But we went to the manager, and he said, to put a purchase order, and he said, wait. I wasn't in the meeting, so did you evaluate the competition? Can we create our own? We have a few spare engineers. And although I told a great story, I did not differentiate myself. I did not give them the tools to explain to their manager, to the competition, to the homegrown solution, to themselves, why I am different, why I am better. And sometimes we tend to do this. We're like, the competition, I'm going to build better relationship, I'm going to be more professional. But you know what? They might be okay. And if they're just okay or good enough, they will take business away. I had to differentiate myself. So I went back to the drawing board. I had to figure out, what does winning mean for these groups? How does my product cause them to win? And spell exactly what kind of ROI, return on investment, I can provide in 3, 6, 12 months. That was the tools they need. They need spoon feeding, why I am different. And once I did that, I started winning on customer experience. And I started winning again and again and again. And a year later, we were, from barely surviving, we were already at $2.5 million. A year later at 5, a couple years later at 15 million yearly revenue. We were clearly differentiating. But customer experience and relevant content was super key. So as you can see, data always played a big role in my life. But capturing it, analyzing it, putting the relevant content in place was always so time-consuming and hard. So I decided to create STIA. STIA stands for Stories in Your Attic. I wanted to bring those stories that are tucked away somewhere back in your brain, in the attic, to be in your pocket. Captured automatically, beautiful, looking beautiful, searchable, shareable. Think of it as storytelling through automation and AI, putting all the really relevant content in front of you. Now, STIA actually started from something completely different, from a personal problem that I had, and in a completely different industry. And I wonder if this happens to you. I would go to San Francisco, you're all here. I'd go to San Francisco for a day, take a couple pictures in Koi Tower, walk around, have lunch, espresso, have a great day. But a week later, a friend would say, hey, Ilana, do you have a day in San Francisco to recommend? And I would say, oh, yeah, here. Here are the photos from Koi Tower. What else can I share? I don't remember the names of the restaurant, the espresso place, where exactly did we walk? So my story is not really working out. Now, even if I find the details, what do? I send an email, and they look at a map. Something was broken. So I created STIA. STIA learned the user and would capture the experiences completely automatically. Created a map, names of places, photos, notes, basically create a story for you. Now, travelers, bloggers, families, yeah, of course, they took over. But what surprised me is that I started seeing more and more agents on our platform. And the agents would basically create a branded story of the house hunting experience they had with a client. So they would take those 4, 6, whatever houses that you guys are showing, and basically create, they would capture automatically on their mobile, and they would create a layer of personalization, adding a few more photos, adding the notes from the client, the videos they took from the school or the neighborhood. And they would send a summary of the brand, a branded summary of the experience to the client. Now, I have to admit that this business model was very weird to me because I'm not from this industry. But what it did do is bring memories of the 2 stories that I decided to share with you. The story was a general in the Air Force, and the story was a startup. Because in both cases, the name of the game was relevance. In both cases, I had to learn the audience and adjust my story to that audience. And this was exactly what the agents were doing. They were taking STIA and adjusting their story to their clients. And I loved it. I really love it. So I really want to make it better for your needs. So let Machine help you tell your story. They can do a pretty good job at it. And thank you. We would love to have you part of the STIA story as well. So if you want, join our wait list and catch me in the corridors. Tell me what you think and if you want to be involved in it anyway. Thank you so much.